2023. Biden's never-ending stream of executive orders, tomes of anti-gun legislation in both the House and the Senate, intractable legislators, Democrat governors acting as lords, endless lawsuits, and the ever-present boot of the ATF aimed squarely at the backs of our necks. What a year. And before you say, oh, you're just being a doomer. Yeah, I know. Look, there's a lot of great things that happened this year too, actually. It's just not as snappy for the opening. But the truth is, none of the good stuff would have happened if it weren't for you, right? The bad stuff is a guarantee. Anytime we have a victory, it's because you sign petitions, you write phone calls, you go to state capitals, you go to hearings, you answer when we call. When we tell you what's going on, you're there. So, at the end of the year, thank you. Now let's get into it. Over the years, pistol braces have grown in popularity, not just from Second Amendment activists, but from shooting enthusiasts. Now, at the time, even Obama's ATF had to declare, when looking at it, that, hey, this does not make the gun more lethal or more dangerous. That's fine. Given enough time, the ATF saw us out here having a great time and enjoying the Second Amendment, and they said, no, we can't let that happen. So at the behest of the Biden administration, the ATF reevaluated their own rule and found, wouldn't you know it, we've been wrong this entire time about pistol braces. So their new rule basically states that if a brace is on a pistol, right, any rifle that is below 16 inches, it is now an SBR, which means you have to register it with the ATF, fill out forms, and then pay an extra $200 for a tax stamp. Let's just say that this rollout did not go the way they expected. On top of getting a ratio in their public comments, they were also made to look like fools by sitting members of the House and the Senate under multiple inquiries. You actually had a bill in the House defunding its implementation, and to top it all off, you had less than 3% compliance. Way to go, ATF. Now, we had a lawsuit against the ATF on this issue in the Fifth Circuit, and the judge there gave us a preliminary injunction for our members. Then flash forward to November, and another case was granted nationwide status. So we're optimistic that we'll eventually win this issue, but don't expect Biden and the gun grabbers not to try and pick this up and do something clever with it in the future. Constitutional carry has been our state-level flagship bill for almost a decade now. And at the time, people said it was wild, it was crazy, it was never going to become mainstream, it wouldn't become law. And to be fair, it was very tough at the beginning. It was hard to get sponsors, it was hard to get a vote, it was hard to even get a hearing on the issue. Well, flash forward, and now we have 27 of these laws on the books. This year with Nebraska and Florida. Sometimes we'll have a state affiliate inside the state working for years at a time, pushing pressure this direction, trying to curry favor, working very, very hard to get these bills passed, which would be the case in Florida. And then there's other cases where a door just opens up and we're able to seize the moment. That would be Nebraska. So our state affiliate, Gun Rights Florida, had been battling this issue for years. A number of things happened, some demographics, some seats changed hands, and thankfully, one of our guys actually accosted Governor DeSantis when he was running and said, would you support this bill? And publicly he said, yes, we will. So that, with enough public pressure and some political maneuvering and some punishment for certain Republican legislators, we were able to pass this bill. Now, strangely, it actually excluded open carry, which is wild, but we'll get back to that and we'll fix that in the future. Now, honestly, we thought Nebraska was kind of a long shot, to be honest with you. It's not that we weren't there and we weren't pushing legislation, we weren't trying, but it's that the committees that handled this issue were often basically controlled by Democrats from Lincoln and Omaha. So it was sort of DOA every time we tried to really push it. Well, what ended up happening, thankfully, was that probably the biggest thorn in our side, State Senator Geist, retired from her seat to go run for mayor. That and a few other things opened up the door. We seized it, struck while the iron was hot, and now we have it. So it just goes to show that with years and years of planning and strategizing and political pressure, you too can have an overnight success. Before I go on, I want to make a quick shout out to the guys at our gear shop. They're doing some really cool stuff. Like, I'm not a model, right? Anytime I put this stuff on, I'm only bringing it down. But if you imagine yourself looking all beautiful in this, you might like it. We've got cool hats, hoodies, T-shirts, pins, buttons, all that kind of good stuff. Check it out over here. Now, the boys at the ATF just cannot help themselves. They want to be Congress so bad. They're constantly LARPing by trying to pass legislation, rules. These rules are really just laws that the Biden administration can't get passed through Congress or Senate because they don't have the support. 2 years ago, Biden's ATF decided they were going to go after Rare Breed Trigger Company. It's an American gun parts company that had patented the forced reset trigger. Now, unlike the ATF, we all know that a fully automatic machine gun is a weapon that fires multiple rounds with a single pull of the trigger. Okay, that's not what a forced reset trigger does at all. Now, unlike the way that Congress names their bills, where it'll be H.R. 666, Save the Children's Act, and then the entire bill is appropriations for how to throw children into an active volcano, the forced reset trigger is actually what the name implies. It forcefully resets your trigger, allowing you to pull single round of the trigger much, much faster. That's it. Well, it didn't matter if it was a violation of law or not. The ATF hated it, and boy, did they hate this thing. It escalated pretty quickly from an angry letter to full-on SWAT raids of the manufacturer, product seizures, intimidation, going after online resellers, gun parts companies, and then even going out of their way to track down everyone they had presumed had bought a trigger, coming to their home and threatening them. Right? That happened to one of our members up in this video here. Now, if you own an FRT and you're a member of NAGR, there is a phone number down below if you're contacted by the ATF or you're threatened. We were the only gun rights group to come to Rare Breed's defense. And we didn't just write an article or make a video decrying the harassment of the ATF or anything like that. No, we sued the ATF. And much to their chagrin, the judge gave us another preliminary injunction. Now, the ATF tried to get clever with this, and so they just kept coming after everybody, including our members. And when we said, hey, don't, the judge said, no, no, no. They said, well, we don't know who your members are versus anybody else who may have an FRT. So if you give us your list of members, then we'll just know not to go after them. No. What are you, insane? No, we're not giving you our list of members. So they still kept applying pressure and going after people, and eventually we got them to stop, and we're going to sue them again over it. Now, what feels like a year ago actually just happened in September. You had New Mexico Governor Grisham deciding to pull a page from the Fauci handbook and saying, what if we just used public health as a way to ban guns? So she did. She declared this public emergency over gun health. And then she had her public health secretary issue this edict that said you cannot possess guns within Albuquerque or the surrounding county. A nice try, I guess. Now, we did exactly what our members expect of us. As soon as we heard the news, that night, the next day, we had already drafted and filed a lawsuit. Now, Governor Grisham was not expecting this kind of pushback at all. I mean, this was headline news immediately. You had multiple lawsuits. You had people of Albuquerque coming out in droves, open carrying, protesting. You had the sheriff's department being like, I don't think we're going to enforce this. Even one of Biden's appointed judges looked at our lawsuit and immediately was like, yeah, let's put a stay on this. Now, she wasn't helping her case either. I mean, she was on TV and people were asking, do you think this is going to have any type of effect? And she goes, probably not, but we have to do something. You're a governor of a state, okay? I expect that kind of argument to come from like my aunt on Facebook. Let's do something. This is not it. People were running away from her super, super quick, and thank goodness. My favorite part was when law enforcement told her, I don't think this is constitutional. And she said, I don't need a lecture on constitutionality. Yeah, maybe you do. And now a word from our sponsor, which is us. Do you like the idea of winning a very cool pew-pew?
I'll sign up for that.
How about a super cool truck to drive it around in?
I'll sign up for that as well.
Well, then you're in luck. Because we're giving away this truck. Now, rounding up the end of the year, there's a few things of note. One, the ATF is pushing a new rule. It's like the fourth one this year or something, basically stating that if you sell a firearm to anybody, you could be classified as a gun dealer, and if you were an FFL, then you could be prosecuted. It gets more complicated than that. I'll throw a video up there for it. We're fighting that, and they're not excited about it. So much so that when we tried to deliver tens of thousands of your petitions, we were kicked off ATF property. None of our phone calls or emails were responded to, and it took a letter from Congress signed by over 20 sitting members for them to even just give us a place that we can drop these things off at. I've had some run-ins with the ATF, but that was a little wild. Now, one of the things that I really like about working at NAGR is that we're constantly taking the fight to the gun grabbers on multiple fronts, but that also means it opens up to multiple fights at the same time. And that's okay, because as we continue to grow, with your support, we continue to be able to do more about that. That's multiple lawsuits happening at the exact same time. Fights in the House and the Senate, fights with the ATF, with the actual judiciary, everything. So we've got a lot planned for next year, and I'm excited to let you guys see it when we're able to sort of show our hand on that. But much like constitutional carry states, where we push for years and years and years and wait for that open door, that's what we're doing everywhere else. We're constantly planning, strategizing, and building up the resources and the actual steam so that if a door is opened, we're going to run right through it. So I'm excited for next year. It's going to be a wild one. I don't know if it'll top this one, but given the election and everything else, probably safe to say it's going to be a bit wilder. But we'll see you there.